Welcome to Weaving Happiness Through Grief, where we navigate the delicate balance between love, loss, and the resilient heart. I'm Stephanie, an author and storyteller who found joy and healing after the unimaginable heartbreak of losing a once-in-a-lifetime love. This podcast dives into the raw truth of grief, the beauty of cherished memories, and the hope of new beginnings. Through my journey, rediscovering happiness and opening my heart again, I've learned that grief and joy can coexist, and love can find us when we least expect it. Join me as we honor the past, embrace the present, and step boldly into the future with courage and vulnerability. Let's celebrate the resilience of the human spirit and the beauty of living fully, even after a loss. Welcome back again. That summer, we found strength in one another. It was, to say it took a strain in our relationship would be a far understatement. We were both stretched thin and to our limits. Emotionally, mentally, physically, every aspect, not just from the cancer, but everything in life at this point just felt like we were fighting so hard to save him that nothing else mattered. But the beautiful part of all that is, I call it my 3 F's. We had an incredible support system. First, our faith. Although we had different religions, we were both very faithful in God. Second was our family. And third was our friends. I usually would rely on God and faith a lot. That was my primary go-to, especially when I would go for a run. I had a lot of talks with God when I would be out having some runs. But family and friends, the support they gave us was incredible. I could not have asked for more. One of the things I found really useful for me was I created what I called my call list. We all have the people in our lives that we can rely upon, we can have fun with, call in time of need, share good news. This call list to me was like a lifeline. I knew, especially having gone through it with my brother, I knew that we had a lot of tough roads ahead of us. So this call list to me was the people that I already knew in my life that I could reach out to. But it was so important because sometimes when you're in the heat of whatever moment that is happening, your mind's so frantic and so chaotic that you can't think who to call. So I created a call list to go, okay, this is that friend or family member who I can just vent to, or I could cry to, or they'll make me laugh, or they'll call me out on my shit if I'm doing something. It was so valuable to me to have these people in my life that stepped up. My family, Jeff's family, our friends. We were so blessed with so many people. Through that summer, we learned that we were taking control. We were taking control of the cancer in our best way we knew how, and we were finding reasons to move forward. Every day we had to rely on one another at different times, finding the inner strength, because at the end of every day, we were depleted and we had to start over again. And it was day after day after day for 8 weeks straight. And I know we're not the only ones in this world that have gone through this. And that's the unfortunate part, is that all of us on some level have probably been touched by cancer or something along these lines, some illness. And finding that inner strength and finding that support system, it's so important. When it was depleted every single day, we knew we had to get up again and do it all over, every day. And as tired as I was, as exhausted as my body felt, and emotionally drained, and feeling like, were we doing this for the right reasons? Were we gonna get the result we hoped for? But we didn't know. We had to just wait and see. But as tired as I was, and as worn out as I was every day, I would look at Jeff and all the things that was happening to his body, all the side effects, all the things that he was enduring. to stay alive, to try to get rid of the cancer and try to have more time with me, with the children, with everybody. His body went through hell. The radiation was so much they did to him that by the last week or two of the summer, he had burns all over the side of his neck and face. It looked like third-degree burns. And I had this salve that they would give me at the pharmacy to put on top of his skin to try to help soothe it and heal it. And it was almost like I was touching blood. It was so raw. And every time I touched it, he just never said a word. He never complained. He was so incredibly brave. He didn't have to be. I was okay if he screamed or yelled or was sad, but he just was so brave, and he held a lot of this chivalry in, and that's just who he was. He didn't hold the chivalry in. He was chivalrous, but he held the pain in. And I think he was doing it to protect me. So every time I looked at him and I would do these things like put salve on him, I knew that it was torturing him. And he just didn't say a word. And he would lay in bed, and even though like his skin was sticking to the pillows, to the sheets, and it was raw and it was like peeling off, my heart broke every time. But we knew we had a goal behind it. This wasn't in vain. And then mouth sores came. And his mouth was it was chalky, it was all these things, but then it was, he could barely even eat because the mouth sores were so unbearable. It was like open wounds inside his mouth, almost like on the inside and the outside. And with that, they gave us some solutions for him, this pink solution. They gave him magic mouthwash, I think they called it. So we tried that out to help with some of the inside pain, and a variety of different things we tried, and on medications he was on. And then the nausea would come. In the first few weeks, a lot of these things didn't happen, but we knew they were coming. We weren't naive to think, oh, he'll be the one that never gets the symptoms. Like, we knew they were coming. And he was so nauseous, and his body was losing weight, and he couldn't eat. And his weight almost dropped to my weight. And eventually, we would start to see the nutritionist at the hospital. And they said, you need to put more weight on or we have to stop treatments. And we tried everything, a variety of different shakes and homemade concoctions and different things we tried. And he just couldn't eat. And they said, we need to do a feed tube. We need to put one in you. And Jeff, being very proud, said, there's no way in hell you're putting a feed tube in me. I'll do this on my own. And he was very indignant about it. And the weight kept coming off, and it kept coming off. And he started getting thinner and thinner and weaker. And eventually it got to the point where they told him, we have to stop. And he refused the feed tube. And I took the reins again, and I looked at him and I said, Jeff, you have two choices. You do the feed tube and you do the surgery and you put that in, and you don't have to think about food anymore. Or we stop. And we've come this far. We've got a few weeks to go. He didn't want to do it, but eventually he knew he had to. Or we'd have to stop. And I think a lot of it was his pride and feeling like he was a failure if he couldn't complete it on his own without having the assistance of the feed tube. And so we did the procedure. And then he had to live with a pole. Everywhere we went, the pole went from there on out for a number of weeks. And I think it was about 2 more months before eventually it got taken out, because he had to keep it on for quite a while after we were done. And it came closer to the end. He had the feed tube. He wasn't gaining weight, but he was maintaining enough nutrition to keep him alive to sustain the rest of that summer so we could get through all the treatments. And it was his last day of treatment. And I recall thinking to myself, oh, we did it. We made it. He's alive. We are about 3 months out. So we're at least that marker now from our original diagnosis. I got it from the radiation department over to the chemo place. I set him up there, and I went out to go buy him some celebration balloons. I just thought I want to do something to, mark the day and bring it back to him, even though we were both exhausted and wiped and we had zero idea of celebrating, but something to just mark that moment. And I went to get him some balloons. And on my way back, the phone rang, back to the hospital. And I could see it was the insurance company because I knew the number. And I thought, oh, great. They're going to spoil our day. It's our last day of treatment. And the woman on the end of the phone said, hi, Stephanie. Is it a good time to talk? And I said, well, it's a great day. What do you want to talk about now? And I was just annoyed because I had been dealing with them all summer long, arguing with them, explaining to them why we were doing what we were doing. And I just kind of figured that this money was on us now, and we'd figure out how to pay these bills later once the treatments were over. And the first words out of her mouth were, I'm sorry. And I thought, yeah, I'm sure you're sorry. You've been hearing this all summer. And then she said, I'm really sorry that we put you through this. We're going to send you a check, and we're going to pay for all the expenses of the treatments from this summer. And I just started crying and thanking her. Of course, I was not happy of the hell they put us through for worrying about the money, but I was so grateful, and it didn't matter anymore. That problem was solved, and I was going back to Jeff, and I brought the balloons back, and I looked at his poor, weak body in that chair. He just looked like a frail, tiny, no hair, burns. And it was his last day. I brought the balloons in, and I remember I looked at him and I said, "Hun," I'm like, guess what? The insurance company, they're going to pay for the bills. And he just put his head down and started crying. He could barely even get tears out. Like something happened with the radiation. He could barely even get tears out. And we were so relieved. And one of the things that oftentimes, as much as we talk and open we were with one another about everything, both of us always wanted to protect the other from certain things. And I didn't want to talk to him about the credit cards or the money. And he didn't want to tell me how stressed he was about it. But the moment we both got that call, we knew we made the right choice and we could breathe again. And then we just had to wait and see if what we put his body through that summer and the course of action that we chose together, if it was the right one.
As we close this episode of Weaving Happiness Through Grief, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey of remembrance, resilience, and rediscovery. Loss is a path none of us choose, but together we can walk through it, honoring the love that was and of the life that still awaits us. If today's story touched a part of your own journey, know that you're not alone. Grief, though profound, doesn't close us off from joy. It teaches us how to hold space for both love and loss. And sometimes, it opens our hearts to unexpected new beginnings. Join me next time as we continue to explore healing, acceptance, and the beautiful bittersweet moments that remind us life can still be filled with happiness. And remember, while we honor the love that has shaped us, we open ourselves to the hope that the future holds. Please head over to the show notes to find out more of the ways I offer guidance on the topics I discussed in the podcast, or visit thestephanieduran.com. Until next time, take gentle steps forward, hold your memories close, and know that joy and love in all its forms continues on.